straight into work with what I have. So I'd like to leave you with the last four things that I carried my entire life that helped me. And I call them my four pillars, because when I tried out for hockey teams when I was younger, I played house league hockey. Not that I didn't try for those other teams. I tried. They just said I wasn't good enough. I beg to differ. I thought I was, but they didn't. But that was their choice. It wasn't mine. So I just kept working. So, and I try to tell it to as many kids that I possibly can. You can get rejected a lot of times in life. That doesn't mean you just gotta work harder. Find a way to make it work. If working, then you gotta find, you have to have a perseverance about you. I didn't know what perseverance was. I didn't even know the meaning of the word until when I was in Kenora. One of the easiest things I could have done was to quit and to go home and feel sorry for myself. They don't like me because I'm First Nation. My hair's longer, than my skin's brown. They don't like me. I said, shove it up your rear, I'm gonna stay. So I stayed, and it's perseverance that helps you get through those things, no matter what the obstacles are. And what you're doing here at your conference, it's all about knowledge, learning how. I never once in my life ever thought I can't do certain things. There's times in life that you might not be able to. That doesn't mean you can't. You just gotta learn how to. And I think learning how to is a powerful tool, and knowledge is and the last one when I named the speech was belief. You have to have belief, because if you don't have belief, you can work as hard as you can, you can persevere as much as you can. It ain't gonna work. But if you believe in something very, very deep to you, it works. During the Truth and Reconciliation period coming out, I was asked to do a TV interview about the meaning of it and where we come from it and what we've learned from it, and I couldn't get through it because we know how emotional it was. My cousins went. We didn't go, and I asked my dad, how come we didn't go? And my mom always pointed to a shotgun in the corner, said those guys weren't going to take you kids anywhere. So I don't know if it was really that simple, but they went, we went. So I had a very hard time getting through the interview because it was so emotional. We talk about our language. Alex was talking about the importance of that. Both my parents are fluent speakers, but they didn't want to pass it down to us because they didn't want the anger and the fear of what's going to happen to us when we go to school. Will they punish us for speaking language? So anyways, I had a very hard time going through the thing, and actually I don't even think I got through it. And then a company called me up, a book company, and asked if I'd be interested in writing a book. So I wrote a book, and listening to Eugene speak this morning about two worlds. When I started writing the book, I mentioned to the co-writer, it was like living in two worlds. Like living in a community and living on the outside. It was just like two totally different, and I couldn't wait to leave one to come back from the other one. And when I went out to the other one, then some of my friends thought I was turning white because I dress different now. And I talked a little bit different. And he said, you're turning white, so I had to fight on reserve as much as I fought on the outside. And it was getting tiring. I had my last fist fight when I was 26 years old because of that. So we wanted to write a book, and I'm quite sure there's a lot of stories like that. And my wife's Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, from the East Coast. Her sister was a chief out there for a number of years, and so we went out to visit my wife. My wife on her reserve is called the St. Mary's Reserve up in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and I was walking in the snow, and I slipped, and I fell down. I thought it was a rock underneath this snowbank, and it kind of really hurt my ribs. And anyways, it was sore for 2 or 3 days. And finally got home, and I said, I better go to the doctor, see what's wrong. I think I cracked a rib, because I had trouble breathing. And I went to the doctor, he said, no, nothing wrong with your ribs. Coach, you're okay. So I said, okay. So I went back home, and I'm going, man, oh man, I must be getting soft, because it hurts again. So anyway, I went back, and and once in a while, I'm pretty thick. I don't catch on really fast. And the doctor said, well, we're going to send you over to the cancer ward. And I'm going, okay, we're going to do some specialized blood work. And excuse me for a minute. So anyways, it was a very emotional time. So my wife knew right away. So I went over, and they did some blood work, and I found out I was 95, 96% contaminated with cancer. So it was one of those words that you don't hear too much. And when you hear it, boy, it's loud, and I'm not too sure how many people in this room know people who went through cancer, but it's not an easy thing. So I started. He said, "You have time to do a bone marrow?" I said, "I got lots of time." So we did it right there on the spot. And anybody has a bone marrow, it's like a needle about that long and about that thick. And they shove it up your back, and they pull out all this marrow and find out what. So I started chemotherapy right away. And thankfully, I was at the right place at the right time. I went through 4.5 months of chemo. I dropped something like 35 pounds. My hair was all gone. It was probably one of the most difficult things in my life. But I think I look back on sports, and I look back on my life, and if I didn't go through what I went through, I probably wouldn't have been able to fight through this. And I reflected back a little bit when I got let go by the Buffalo Sabres, and how devastated I was, and when I got beat up in Kenora, how devastated I was. I'm going, this thing here is just another bump in the road, and you have to fight through it. And so I walked 8 kilometers a day, even when I didn't feel like walking. I walked through it, went through the chemo sessions for 4.5 months, and knock on wood, it's they say it's gone for now, which is good. But I think we all go through difficult times, and but I think if you have a good mindset on there's nothing more. I've been married now for 45 years, going on 46 years. I have 2 sons. Both followed it's funny listening to Alex speak this morning and how you want to teach your children the best way. And I grew up in a household that had a lot of alcohol, a lot of fighting, a lot of situations where we didn't have food. And when I had my oldest son, Brandon, that was the day that life changed for me, because I wasn't going to do it anymore. There was going to be no alcohol in my house. I was going to really hopefully teach him the right way. I was going to talk about the importance of education and what have you. And I wanted to be a hockey player. So we built a hockey rink in the backyard, and lo and behold, they both got drafted. They both played in the Ontario Hockey League. Brandon with the Oshawa Generals, and Jordan with a number of teams. But they ended up with Windsor Spitfires, and they both got drafted into the National Hockey League. And Jordan was lucky enough to be part of 3 Stanley Cup winning teams. 2 with LA Kings, and it was pretty special. You watch that, and then one with the St. Louis Blues. But I tell you, when he brought the cup home to Garden River, I'll never, because we all know people in our communities that are pretty shy. They don't get show too much emotion. You could introduce them to the Pope and, hi, how you doing? Like there's no emotional attachment to it. And so we brought the Stanley Cup to reserve. I mean, there's some people that were crying. They had tears coming down their eyes and said, this is the best moment of my entire life. And we took a picture of it we have a bridge back home that my brother was part of a group when they were younger. They went on that big bridge and they wrote, "This is Indian land," on the bridge. Next day, the CN Rail or whoever they were came and spray painted it oval. Next night, they went back and said, "This is Indian land." And they did it, I think, 2 or 3 times. And now it's a bridge that everybody stops in, takes a picture. But we had a chance to bring that Stanley Cup on top of the bridge. We had a sunrise ceremony on the reserve. My father was, his name is Stanley. So to bring the Stanley Cup down to the reserve was, I tell you, it was a very, very special moment. And but then people ask, how do your 2 sons play and why something else? I just think it's a desire of what you have. Anybody could do anything that you set your mind to. As Alex talks about our language, gaining the strength of our language is so important. Work at it. If you want to become an athlete, work at it. If you want to become a doctor, work at it. And eventually, if you work long and hard enough, great things always happen. So I just been talking about that because before when I did some presentations, I used to talk about my first goal I scored in the NHL. Who cares? Or my first assist and who I fought first and all that stuff. And I used to be so happy just saying it. But then I realized, what's really important? The important is how. How. And when I was growing up, and I always thought about how do people do that? And I was talking to Eugene over dinner last night, and there was a couple that I met in Glens Falls, New York, and they're a white couple, and they had 2 daughters. And we got to know them a little bit, went to their house back and forth a few times, and every time we went, the word university came up. It must have come up 50 times. And these kids were only 6 and 8 years old. And I'm going, what are you some kind of fortune teller? How do you know the kids are going to university? So I asked her one day, I said, Dottie, how do you know your kids are going to university? She looked at me like I had 3 eyeballs. I said, why wouldn't they? And I'm going, that's how they do it. That's how they do it. So I went home, talked to my kids. You're going to school. You're going to university. So I think it's early education. It's education. It's motivation. It's all those things in order to get where you want to get to in life. And I'm just really thankful that I was able to do it, especially from one of our First Nation communities, and to prove people that if you want to become a doctor, you want to become a police officer, whatever you want in life, that you can. And have a strong belief that if good Lord willing, and you work hard enough, things will happen. But if they don't, there's always a reason as to why they don't. So I just really want to thank everybody for your time, and hopefully you had a great conference. And I think one thing about conferences is you learn certain things. You learn from somebody that you never thought of before. When I was coaching the league, we had a club called the Drill of the Week Club. So all the coaches got together and we talked about our best drill, and you share ideas. So I'm quite sure at your conference here you had a chance to share some ideas and had a great time. And River Cree, as usual, puts on a great show for us, and hopefully nobody left too much money behind. But anyways, thank you very much for the welcome. Thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause one more time. Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful message. To believe. That's what we got out of it. Having said that, we're at 11:30-ish. And on my schedule, it says closing remarks provided by our chief. So at this time, I'm going to invite our chief to come. And this is our Indigenous Wellbeing Conference. We hope you got something out of it. The other thing is, we need the evaluation sheets that you signed. Write them out, and please make sure we get them so that we know what your feedback is. So that if we make it again, we'll know how you want it. We're going to try to cater to you. And also, we're going to give out some door prizes. And it says here we're going to have our lunch break. And then you hand in your feedback, your evaluations. And Ted Nolan is going to do autograph signing session. We had asked him to do that. He also has that best-selling book out. If you guys have your books, he'll be signing those too. I'll get our chief to come up. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of our conference for this week right here, ladies and gentlemen, Chief Tony Alexis.
About another round of applause for Ted Nolan, eh? I have to confess, Ted, I told your story a few times. I would do some speaking engagements, and I bored his story a few times, so I embellished it a little bit more this time. There was more people, and there was a medicine man that came in with his nice hat and the jacket. Anyway, I'm confessing to all of you here that I bore his story. But if he says it's okay, I can use it now, we're good. Thank you. I'm going to invite Aktuwa Howard to come and share a few words. As I mentioned in our at the beginning, the way we started this event was an idea that came from him. And as I mentioned, we did an event, and half of the audience were people in recovery trying to find a path, and the other half were people like yourself who are helping those. So every speaker that came up was speaking to this audience or this audience. And what he advised at that time is that you have to do one for the helpers. If you do one for the helpers, you'll be helping all of those ones that are trying to recover anyway. And so we went to ceremony, and from that we did the first event last year. My relative Barb was the lead of that, and this year my relative Candace is the lead of that. So our community has been focusing on this to be a good host for you. But I asked Aktuwa to come and share a few words here before we do the closing. So, Ishnish, thank you.
Ishnish, Tavuchawa, Nibi to Achi Abitat, Nitom, Waginatno. Neta say, Gitahum, Tagagine, Tunata Chane, Udu, Chige, Yaperatas Comica. Esni Gibitacha, Ingitautabaki, Tacho Genaha, Uskashiamina, Ugena Ushiyamga. Tashe in a perabshit, you will get me chat. Eshe in a perabiti. Nibikat Yatiba Ningabichacha. Shidaha into Abner, a Hindubi chestnut, Naperabi chestnut. Ezaho Chanabad what the Rebino Gena all the Pichiamine. I used to one in Wayuhinina, Inabichacha Gunicha Ube. Tashing introducing his chatters, Shona ne wachigemne. Ne utainam nudo agina. Osuza haking gebina. Shit pakani yapsina tona taushin jebs. Anchi chidabi chesnat gagi utabaki oma. Ne tas ni chijabni ni tojabna ne odecham dagucham tawa hucha kesh namitos. Odat ne hejabti jo oma uchiadne. Ne tasen chinyagina huma kebne tacha tamho chkab da chano chochak jumshin. Usmi chkabe ki tacha chochak jumshin. Tashebi ta nesatuska wakana tasatuska no ibu uchakuscha nibu no kupcha ujichayapchi nibi chichachashi numiti uchageci no huchoke bichadne. But I'm going to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. I was just sharing some thoughts with the people from Lexus. I'm glad that Eugene and others are starting to work on revitalizing our language. I fear that if that's not done, the language is going to be lost with my generation. Probably one of the few that's fluent in the Nakota Stony language. But I want to share with you my philosophies. We've heard some scientific analysis about the inconsistencies around and how foreign concepts has interfered in the lives of our people and causing all types of atrocities and damaging our people, including the different religious denominations and the residential school, government policy. And that's a informational session by itself. That's what I do. I inform non-Indigenous white people about the historical injustices that was done to our people, right from the doctrine of discovery in 1492. But I'm not going to speak of that today. I want to speak to you about what I've been told by our elders. I've been counseled, taught, scolded by elders over the years in my role as leadership. When I first got elected to leadership, I had a beard. That was the hippie era, long hair and a beard. The elders, you're a chief now. You got to look and act like a chief. Shave that off. But we'll allow you to keep your braid. Okay? Unfortunately for me, I was raised by my auntie who did not speak English, Stony, and her husband was a Norwegian forester. So I never spoke a word of Stony when I came back to the reserve. And the elders said, lesson number 2, you got to master the language. So every month I sat with them and they would drill me. Last time we asked you this, do you know the meaning of what it is now? So, within 3 years, I was able to converse very adequately in the Stony language, back then Stony, and now it's Nakota. And they were very surprised that I was able to do that. Some of them would come by, and of course some of the older gentlemen who used the authentic language would teach me. So I would use that. And a lot of them would say, there was a nashi of where did you get that word from? I never heard it in my life, And here it's coming from our community. But what I learned that's very important, and the proof is in the pudding with what I do today. The wife and I were traditional pipe carriers, we're traditional teachers, and we teach the language and the culture. But in the introduction to that, of course, we all had to follow the First Nations rules of rites of passage. And I fulfilled all of them I did not take any shortcuts. I fulfilled all the rites of passage to be able to carry pipe, teach, and maintain some of the spiritual songs. But one of the elders that was teaching me one day reminded me, said, you know, Chief, what you're doing by using the language is the most important. When the Creator first conversed with our people, the language came from there. He said in our language, "Nahatachan ito kong ipsek mitun magi bamtet ichaustin mitun." What he instructed the people to do was, before you do anything, you will call upon me first. So that's why we open all our gatherings with a prayer, we close with a prayer, we call upon the Creator all the time for that. So from that as well, ni toshib na ne inama kuchitacha aichwak awyachin. As well, the grandfathers and Mother Earth is going to determine, interpret, and enhance that language for you. So first and foremost, the Creator, and then from there on, the responsibilities of the grandfathers, which sit in 4 different directions, who are also in charge of the elements of earth. And so when we speak about how we conduct ourselves accordingly, the interpretations of that, as my friend Ted Nolan mentioned, quite often is a deterrent and detrimental to our society, which is alcohol and drugs, promiscuity, and I use gambling. I don't want to offend any of you. I use gambling because I don't gamble, because that can be a deterrent too. You lose your money, that money you spend on your grandchildren, you know. So people have to start realizing and taking on those responsibilities that were instructed or imposed upon them by the Creator. Today we have probably about 100 followers. I shouldn't say. I call them my children. I've adopted all of them. They haven't gone to a treatment center. They haven't gone to, they don't go to AA meetings. They came to the spiritual lodge. And that's where they started grounding themselves and started uplifting themselves, started accepting the responsibilities of having to live a life of sobriety, which is beneficial to their children, to their grandchildren in some instances, and build a very strong foundation for their families. So we see it working, but the longer you ignore that opportunity, the longer it's going to take for our community to heal. When we started in this journey, I approached some key family members in our community. I said I was given these instructions through a dream. And I'll very quickly share that dream with you. When I left politics, these grandfathers, they came in my dream. One of them said, "Come. Come, we've been waiting for you for a long time." When you were in leadership, for some of you that don't know, I was a chief for quite a number of years, and you know, my adopted son has endured that challenge as a result of that. And I try to mentor him as much as I possibly can with my experience. Come. And there was a vacant spot at the head of some of you that work in the ceremonial circle. There's an altar. There was a vacant spot at that altar. Sit down. that's been waiting for this long. So the elder that was manning the altar, he looked at me and he held his pipe out to me. When you was in leadership, you thought you was working for your people. Look at these are your people. Some of them were drunk over there, they're fighting. Women over here were trying to sing, they were drunk, their hair was all messy. Children over there crying, fighting child welfare that was trying to apprehend them. These are your people. From here on in, you're going to start working for your people, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to maintain, promote, teach culture, traditional ways, including the revitalization of our language. So in my ceremonies, I asked for that, the grandfathers to give that direction. So I'm glad that now the education program has taken that upon themselves. I'm not taking any credit for it, but I just wanted to share that with you. You know, the belief works in very mysterious ways. In addition to that, when I was in leadership, there was a number of things that I was advised of by elders that's gone past. And one of them was my little brother Francis, who was very, very supportive in what we were attempting to do. The one day we was conversing with some people that followed the powwow trail, and which I was very naive of. You know, Chief, we need to do this. We need to bring that powwow back into our community. And so the instructions that was given to that process was they have to be alcohol-free, they have to be drug-free. And so my little brother, when he was emceeing, he always informed the people, reminded them that this is a drug, alcohol-free celebration. If you're going to, you cannot bring that here. If you're going to leave, please leave, you know. And so that was a stringent rule that was applied to that, you know. And so as time went on as well, we agreed to pick and choose certain people in a community that we felt would be able to enhance or instill or reconnect our people back to our spiritual origin through the traditional ceremonies. So we asked a number of them, your grandfather used to run sweat. That entitles you by the rule of law, the rite of passage entitles you to do that. We want you to start doing that with your own family. Bring your family together and start doing that, and all with the objectives of having to heal ourselves and eventually, as much as possible, our community to live a life of sobriety. This way of teaching is very, very disciplined. You have to humble yourself. No matter what, you know, you need to respect people for their own opinions, and that's their opinion. But hopefully, we'll be able to accept the proof around what they see in our community. You know, I don't have to convince the chief, because our chief is a very traditional spiritual person. He comes from that background, and I'm glad that he's chosen to maintain that status, because his dad was a Sundance maker along with myself. That's where I got my teachings from, that I worked for all of the Sundances in our community. I think I've witnessed and been a major part of all the 50 Sundances that are taking place in our community. So I'm able to bring the young people and the young women into this with that understanding that they're not making that commitment to me or to anybody else. They're making that commitment to the Creator, the higher power. And the higher power you cannot manipulate. the higher power before your intentions are even thought of already knows what the outcome is going to be. So in our teachings, quite often the elders used to tell us that tas wakanda tiki naya kuishit, tas ituki itushia kishit, triyat naha ni tonchi na naha yaginesha ko wana triyat tacha tiki nuto hongeti. Tas tani to hongishigitis nigapsinatat. You cannot, as I said, manipulate or falsely try and create or address the higher power, because there's a process of discipline in our language, which means he'll whip you. And so in our culture, there's two formats that needs to be recognized and acknowledged. One is that there's the negative side of things, and some of the speakers shared that with you. The other is the positive side. When we experience a negative side in our lives, and that's the way life is, you turn that into a positive and learn from that. You've often heard lessons learned. The Creator has established that rule for you so that you learn from that. You learn from that and realize that at some point, hey, maybe I miscalculated whatever it is that I was supposed to do. So today, I'm very glad that the Chief this is the second one, where we bring people together. You know, a lot of you frontline workers, especially people that work in alcohol and addictions, you see that every day leadership that witness the burying of our young people just consistently. In some cases, you know, we're burying 3 individual young people a week. You know, that's not our culture. You know, that was the discipline by the Creator for not acknowledging, you know, the rule that's been established for us about how we conduct ourselves. For too long, we've allowed non-traditional foreign interferences to come into our lives. Yes, it's fine to enjoy some of that, but we're always reminded not to forget who you are and where you're coming from. And that's what's happening today. Once you master the language, all of these other concepts or principles or philosophies that you've heard mentioned will make sense to you. But if you don't attempt to master that language, you know, it's going to be as vague as it is to you now. So I encourage you, nations that are here. I spoke to one gentleman yesterday where his community is now trying to replenish their language. Because if you look at the stats and the report, you know, we're losing too much of our language, and we have to bring that back into a way, maybe somewhat semi-mandatory, where people that are frontline workers, leadership, must encourage their people to start learning about the language. The language is very, very powerful. Our people don't realize that. Our language is very powerful. Some of the speakers you saw speaking here, you know, our grandmother used to teach us about how to maintain and how to pick certain kinds of plants for medicinal reasons at what time of the year. And she always used to remind us that you do not stockpile any of that, or you do not pick that for financial gain. The rule for that is that you're going to be promoting additional sicknesses or additional improprieties coming into your community. So you look at circumstances where last year I had 10 people come. During COVID, it was difficult. My little brother Francis and I were doing that for the people. You know, I would run short of some of the ingredients, he'd have it, so he'd run short, and so we'd exchange back and forth. There was a lot of people in our community that got cured from that, you know. And as I said, you know, it's not me as the individual or the plant. It's those individuals that were sincere and believe in that medication to heal them, that healed themselves. And so that's some of the teachings that need to take place in our community. I think we're too long. You heard him say a lot of times that forestry out there is my pharmacy. You know, and so a lot of you people, I heard you speak at the language. You've been taught by your grandparents, introduced by your grandparents to some of this. You're going to have to start reclaiming that and start utilizing that and teaching your children how to manage and how to maintain and how to utilize that with that respect that it takes to. Because the elders always used to tell us that everything that Mother Earth has available to us has a spirit attached to it. And so the more commitment with honesty that you apply to that, the better the results are going to be for you. And so I want to encourage you all to start working that way. And you know, there's going to be some discrepancies in our communities because there's a lot of our people that don't believe that's been converted by non-Indigenous lifestyles and you know, applications and things of that nature. And quite often you hear some suggesting, well, you know, that's a violation of the charter. The charter that's white. We're talking Indigenous. So we have to maintain our respect and our philosophies to enhance our beliefs and apply ourselves to our communities to be able to uplift and you know, find better results. At least minimize some of the death that's happening in our communities. And so, on that note, I'll thank you all for coming, and I thank Eugene and the chief for their and Candace for all the hard work and all the frontline work. So wish to get a safe journey home. Hi.
Thank you very much. Again, I want to acknowledge everyone. I notice people are lining up for lunch, but awesome. So first of all, I want to share again the intention of this event is to celebrate all of you workers that are here, everybody who reaches out. And at the beginning, when I asked the question, how many of you are looking after 10 people or so? You put up your hand. How many are looking after 100? More hands went up. So your presence is very important in our First Nations, in our communities, our Indigenous community. And there's a lot of people, as mentioned, who have been struggling in our communities. And what you do is that you're providing that hope to them and encourage them, be adventurous. Be adventurous to find their gifts, who they are as a person individually, as a family member, as well as a community and as a people at large. So I want to say thank you. There's a lot of people that participate in this, so let's let's show some appreciation. I know that a lot, not yet. I didn't even mention anybody. But what I want to share is I've heard some elders on this side say to me that we don't want it to end. We had a great time. We don't want it to end. And so I thank you for that message. That it acknowledges that we're on the right path of what we're trying to achieve. And there's a lot of people that worked on this. And on behalf of my council, on behalf of our nation, I want to give thanks to all the speakers. Let's give them a round of applause. They did wonderful. Mr. Nolan, as well as our conference elders, Hongawa and Aktua, Howard and Phyllis. They did the ceremonies and the smudging as we were here. Thank you. Our cultural helpers, we got Dawn and Mr. Howie, who are continuously providing the smudge here. And some people need a smudge room, they would go look after them in there as well. Let's give them a round of applause. And we'll just keep going. I'm going to list them and we'll just keep applauding for them. Our drummers, they did a great job. Our drummers kept saying all kinds of beautiful songs. Of course, where's Eugene? Eugene Alexis is